My idea is never to sell my time. I started my career as a corporate executive. I worked about 20 years in an FMCG company in a general management position all over the world. And then I decided to quit. It was to make $5 million in 3 years.
How do you do that?
You put a plan together for your own life.
But did you have the financial means?
No. I became an entrepreneur and then a minimalist and then a nomad. The thing that defines me right now is that for the last, 25 years, I've been on what I call a sabbatical.
Imagine you are a young person, their 20s, just starting now. How do they find what their job should be?
The question is really, what kind of a life you want? What are the ways you can afford it?
Give me several steps they should do to break free.
Like how much are you going to make in your lifetime? And people have never thought about it. In Europe, where most of the population makes, let's say, 2,000 euros a month. In their lifetime, they are probably going to make maximum $1 million. Why should you spend 40 years to make that if you have a shot at making it in 5, 10, 20 years? Well, I don't like it. I prefer to go and do something else. I don't like to work. I'm a business guy who doesn't like to work.
Hi there, and welcome to Change is Possible podcast, where we dive deep into incredible stories of life and career transformation. I'm Ani Filipova, and I'm so glad you've joined us today. If you find this channel interesting, it will mean the world to me if you hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share this podcast with others who might enjoy it too. Your engagement is not just valuable, it's the essence of our podcast. It's what attracts more incredible guests and fuels the expansion of our show. You're a vital part of this journey. Thank you so much, and I'll see you inside. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Franck. I'm so happy to see you on my podcast. Exactly. Maybe 2 years after we had this first discussion about what is to be entrepreneur, etc., I still remember some of your words, and I hope that everybody now will get to hear them the way I heard them and the way they made impression on me. So let's start with setting the scene a little bit for our viewers, our audience. Who is Franck? Tell us, what are the people going to learn today in this podcast?
I started my career as a corporate executive. I worked about 20 years in an FMCG company in general management position all over the world. And then I decided to quit. It was a big decision, like everybody who has been in corporate knows. I decided to quit, and I became an entrepreneur, and then a minimalist, and then a nomad, and I can say, and I think the thing that defines me right now is that for the last 25 years I've been on what I call a sabbatical, right? Where I don't really work. I do some project that I like. I've been lucky to have my first venture be quite successful, so I exited, and that was exactly the plan, by the way. So it does. In life there are no guarantees, but it turned out okay. So, and now I'm starting a new project this year, which is going to be the ultimate nomad life for 1 year, I think.
Yeah. Well, we'll speak about that a bit later. We have a whole section devoted to your latest project. So you spoke about living the corporate life. So it was in mid-career, right? Was it in your 40s?
In my late 30s, and my career was going very well. I was, identified as a good prospect. I was doing very well. But and that's very interesting. I have a point that I've never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. Okay, so that to be clear, my dad was a corporate executive, so I thought I would be a corporate executive and become a president somewhere. And it never occurred to me that I could create my own company and become the president of my company. But that's I think what happened is. There was a certain level of frustration in the job at that time. Also, my daughter was born, and I wanted to spend more time with the kids. And obviously, in corporate, it's not possible, especially when you manage multiple countries. And my next promotion would have been even more countries. And so I realized that I would not have the family time that I wanted. And so I decided that I needed to change something. And that's where I decided to jump.
And how does one decide at their late 30s with 2 kids? How do you do the jump? I mean, that is school, that is life. How do you think about the financial part?
Actually, you have to understand that your life is not your job, and that the job is just a tool for your life. Now, once you know for sure what you want, and in my case that was free time, then there are other ways of making money, and corporate is not everything, right? So then you start thinking about it, you start planning, you put a plan together with very firm objectives, monetary and time also. Like if you were doing a business plan for your own life, correct? And then you decide to do it or not based on your personal situation. And really the motivation, the key is really, what do you want? And in my case, my job, I was good at it, I loved it, I enjoyed it, but it was not my life, correct? So, and people tend to realize that a little bit later in life when they retire, and then and then their whole world stops. But yeah, for me, it was really the motivation was to spend time with the kids and see them grow up.
Okay. But did you have the financial means to just leave and do nothing?
No, definitely. Actually, I didn't have, I had some savings, but really not a lot. On top of that, I was an expat living at the time in Moscow, where the rent was like 10,000 a month. So you can imagine, as soon as you become on your own, it's a big difficult. No, so you do a business plan, correct? I mean, you have an idea, and then you look at the financial situation, the cash flow. If you need to raise money, you go and raise money, depending on the business that you're going. I mean, we do that every day in our daily life at work, correct? And we seem to be to not be able to do it for our own life. That's kind of a paradox, correct? I mean, managers are used to handling conflicting objectives and difficult situations. So, so I think if you think about it, you can put a plan.
So you put a plan while you were still working, right? And you executed.
No. Well, I mean, I had the idea, obviously, but then I resigned. My plan, I had a very clear objective in terms of, and I can say it because I've written about it. Yeah. My goal was to make $5 million after tax in 3 years. And I figured that with that, I could live well for 20, 25 years, and then I would be doing a few things. So I would have plenty of time to see the kids grow up, and maybe to start in my 50s or 60s to make money again, correct? So that was my goal. 3 years, $5 million cash after tax. And I put a plan for it. And I think I want to make a very important point. I couldn't do any project. I had to choose a project that, if successful, would allow me not to work anymore. Because if it was a project, most of the projects, the more you're successful, the more you work. So to do that, I was better off staying in corporate, correct? Because anyway, I was going to work all my life. So I had to choose a business model that, if I was successful in 3 years, that would give me the ability to decide how I spent my time. So that limited the type of business model that I could choose. But okay, I was aware of it, so that was a very important decision, and that's what I did. and it was the beginning of internet. Created an internet project in the year 2000, and struggled for. So my goal was 3 years. I struggled for 5 years, but eventually it took off, and and then it's history, I guess.
And in these 5 years, when you struggled, how did you sustain financially and take care of a family?
So that was a very stressful period. Like any transition period is difficult, and there's no way to go from point A to point B without a transition, correct? By definition. So here I like to talk about the tactical versus the strategic. So for example, my idea is never to sell my time, as a consultant or whatever, because obviously when you sell your time, then you can never be free, really. But during those years, because I was an expert in the field and everything, I took some consulting job on a tactical basis, if you will, still keeping my eyes on my strategic goal, and while our solution was being developed, to have some income, basically some income for us, for my family, but also for the team. Correct? I mean, I had to pay every month the team. It was stressful. I didn't raise a lot of money. I think the whole project raised $200,000. So, and I was very cost conscious, obviously. And obviously we moved apartments. I moved the family to cheaper apartments and all these things. Lowering fixed cost is very important. So,
Yeah, so it's always, you have to give and take. You give a lot and then take something at some point in the future.
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't see it that way. I thought that if I had stayed in corporate, I would also have given. I would have given the fact that I wouldn't have seen my kids grow up. So actually, people always think about the risk of leaving, and which is true. I mean, there are some risks, but they don't look at the risks of staying, right? And so depending on what your objective in life is, and so it's not a moral situation. You have to know yourself, and in my case, in staying may have cost me more, not in money, but in the life that I wanted.
Yeah, in time, because time passes and you never get
experiences, everything. I mean, when the kids grow up, they grow up. Right? then it's different.
Exactly. Yeah. No, my kids are now 14, and they're just gone in a way.
Wow. Yeah. Well, wait until you reach 16 and 18, and then.
Okay, you're frightening me now, but never mind. I will ignore this for the time being. So then, if there is somebody in their middle career, give me several steps they should do to break free. Tangible, tactical, whatever, strategic, something that can be done.
So I'm nobody to tell them what to do. Okay, they have to know themselves. So they have to decide for themselves the life they want to have. There is no problem staying in corporate for 40 years and waiting for retirement. There is really no problem with it. If you're happy with it, correct? If you're happy, just stay where you are. It's already difficult to be happy, so you found the formula, stay. So I'm not there. Now, if you're frustrated, and if your frustration is such that you're willing to do something about it, okay? Because sometimes people are frustrated, but not really, so then obviously you have to look at alternatives. And an alternative is to start your own business or find a different job also, why not? But if you want to go on your own and you're going to have through a transition period, one thing that's very important is to lower your fixed expenses. Okay, because that's a good thing in life, not to be overburdened by fixed expenses in general, but especially in times where revenues could be lower. That's very important. So, but the key is introspection. Okay, you have to know why you're doing it, and then use your skill as a business manager to make a business plan for your life, but a concrete business plan, correct, with time, objectives, or like almost a monthly plan for your project. Think about it. Think about the business model. Imagine that you were going to present that to your boss. And what would he say, with this business plan? If you don't have dates, if the numbers are weak, if they are not supported, well, your boss will tell you to go back, correct? And so you have to do it for yourself. Obviously, you have no boss other than. Then you have to make sure that your family is okay with it, or whoever your support group, because obviously this is usually a decision that has consequences, at least in the short term, right? But it all comes down to introspection, for me at least.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what you said is we do that every day at corporate, as you said. We make a plan 3 months till the end of the year. We just fine tune it. But then when it comes to do that for us, we say, oh, I can't do it.
Absolutely. I mean,
crazy.
The company would ask you to write a mission statement. Well, you would write one, right? You would do. So what's the problem about having a mission statement for your own life? Because again, for me, the objective, I think, for most people is the search of happiness and well-being, correct? And the job is just a tool for that. If maybe there are some people for whom the job is the objective, correct? And that's fine. I mean, anybody, but for most people, it's just a tool. So let's use it as a tool. Now, it is true that many people haven't looked at alternatives because of our education, and even myself. I had never thought about becoming an entrepreneur. Really, it never crossed my mind during my first 40 years, correct, or whatever. It's just that there was this moment in time where I wanted something else, and that forced me to look into alternatives, and I had to learn. Of course, I was already a business executive, so I had at least good financial base, right? Some people may not have that, and then you have to look at your weaknesses and work on them.
Okay, so you said about the education and how we don't venture or think outside of the bubble we are in. If we talk about this a little bit more, and imagine you are a young person at their 20s, just starting now. How do they find what do they want to do with their lives? How do they find what their job should be?
Already here, the question is poorly asked, sorry to say that, because you say what the job should be. And it's not the question. The question is really what kind of a life you want. So that's introspection, obviously. Obviously, knowing that over the next 60, 80 years that a young person is going to live, it's going to change. They are cycled. Yeah. Nobody knows themselves ever. You keep, and even at 60, you still evolve, correct? So knowing that, correct, what kind of life do you want, at least in the medium term? And then what are the ways you can afford it? So it's not necessarily a job. And that's a problem. In education, in the university, the first question is always, what job are you going to take? Or which company are you planning to join? As opposed to saying, what value do you want to create? Because at the end, to make money, you have to create value. Okay, so I think if we ask the question a little bit differently, as what work will you help you achieve the lifestyle and the life goals that you have, would be better than job, because job implies working for someone else, correct? Yeah. I mean, as opposed to so I think, but it comes through introspection, and of course it's very difficult at 20 to have a clear view of your life, but I mean, you have to do with the tools and the maturity that you have at that stage. And if you're taking a job as an investment, there's no problem. I mean, you recognize that to achieve a certain objective, you need to have just certain skills and a job. Then you choose your job for the learning and not for the money, correct? Which is completely different, also a way of looking at jobs, and so it comes down to think about what you want and then act, because obviously then there is the other thing where you could be thinking and philosophizing all day long and never acting, and there's a point where act is essential, and also within the action you will also learn to know yourself. So I'm not saying stay on the sideline until you know what you want, correct? If you have no idea, take a job. It's like but at least you'll make some money. But if you take a job with a purpose, with a clear purpose, it's probably better.
Okay, no, that's a very good reframe of these questions. Very good. I'll remember that. So let's go back to you and talking about your life after, in the last 20, 30 years out of the corporate, and tell us about what does it mean to have a minimalist life?
So at least for me, I'm sure there are many definitions, correct? That doesn't mean not necessarily spending money, by the way. It means what I'm after is freedom, okay? Freedom of time, freedom of headaches. And so for me, it meant actually unloading some assets. Okay, every asset is a burden in a way, correct? If you have a house, you have to take care of it. You have bills, you have a mortgage maybe. If you have a car, you have to fix it, you have to maintain it, or whatever. So for me, minimalist is having the least amount of assets possible. So basically, the ultimate is just having a fixed phone number that everybody can reach me and a good bank account that allows me to rent a car when I want a car, to go to any Airbnb or whatever place I want to go to, and that's it. And I keep basically one invoice, which would be my phone bill, and it's a very liberating situation, correct? So again, sometimes minimalist is associated with not spending and being very tight in money and everything. I still think I have a very comfortable lifestyle, but I don't need to own the things. I also realized that I used to have a closet full of clothes. You can whatever, and I always used to wear the same, right? And nowadays, because we are washing very regularly, correct? So your favorite clothes is always fresh, correct? So you don't have to go and dig in the. So actually, I figured that I don't need much stuff, correct? And I think everything that I wear pretty much fits in 2 suitcases because of the winter and some, big stuff, but that's it, correct? And it's very, very liberating. And if I need a sweater or if I need something, I just go and buy it and it's over, correct? So that's what minimalism means for me. And it's really goes down to limiting fixed assets, fixed expenses, really, and keeping minimum assets. But bank account is important.
Yeah, bank account is always important.
Yeah. And also, you also have to know exactly the lifestyle you want to live and how much that represents, correct? So, some people might live very well. You have to know, how much do you need to have the life that you want? I'm always amazed to meet people, and one of my questions, like, how much are you going to make in your lifetime? Okay, and people have I've never thought about it, correct? And if you think about in Europe, where most of the population makes, let's say, 2,000 euros a month or whatever, in their lifetime, they are probably going to make maximum a million five, correct? Well, if you want to buy a house that costs 500,000, the car and everything, it's important to know that framework, correct? Because then all of a sudden you say, oh, well, maybe I need to go and get more money, or $1 million or euros, to create a project of €1 million. I'm not saying it's easy, okay? Nothing is easy, but it's not Bill Gates, correct? We're not talking the big things, correct? It's feasible over time. It may take you 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, but it won't take you the 45 years that you have to work right now to make that million and a half. And that's the logic. The logic, why should you spend 40 years to make that $1.5 million if you have a shot at making it in 5, 10, 20 years? Well, then if that's the lifetime that you want, if you want a lifestyle of $5 million, well, okay, it's different. Then it's a different business model. But the point is, why wait 45 years and end up with maybe a pension which is not at the level that allows you to do all the things you're dreaming of doing? So I think there's a logic there that people are not thinking about. It's okay if they're happy. I mean, if there's no problem. I mean, really, I'm not here to push any agenda, because I don't sell anything. I don't have any agenda, correct? Really, other than exposing basically the alternatives, and especially thinking that 60% of the population right now, even more, is living from paycheck to paycheck. Life is difficult for many, many people. So why is that? And why are some people making $10 an hour and some people are making, thousands, correct? Are they so intelligent? Are they so lucky? What is it? Why couldn't pretty much anybody at least improve their financial situation? That's really the questions that I keep asking, and hopefully I bring some leads or insights for people to think about their lives. That's really is what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have a very interesting way of reframing traditional views.
Yeah.
And making them simple.
I mean, it's really common sense, correct? I've always thought that education or becoming an adult is questioning your education. Okay, when you're young, you don't have a choice. You go to school. Okay, you have to go to school. The parents or whatever. But once you become an adult, then you have a chance to challenge your education, and you should. I mean, at the end, let's not forget that when we're young, we're presented with some concepts that are simplified. It's like I'll give you an example. In mathematics, you start with numbers 1, 2, 3, and then as you grow up, you say, well, in between there's fractions, like 1.5. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. And then you grow up, and then you say, oh, well, there are negative numbers. Oh, wow. So obviously, your education is to help you think. As you grow up, at some point, okay, you have I think you should challenge it, on all aspects, correct? And there are some things that you say, well, yeah, that was good. That fits my persona. That's me. And there are things, what, I don't relate too much with. Now, after that, you have to decide whether to take on the fight. I mean, to change, because obviously people around you, may not like the way you're changing and the way you evolving, right? But it's up to you to decide. And when you start questioning, then you say, why am I working? Personally, and again, we have to define what work is. Work is an activity that you're doing because you're paid, and that you probably wouldn't do for free. Okay, that's my definition of work. Of course, there's the definition of efforts, but let's talk the common definition, which is a job. Correct? You would not do it if it was, for free. So I don't like it. I prefer to go and do something else. I don't like to work. I'm a business guy who doesn't like to work. There are plenty of other things I'd rather do. But I need the money. Okay, so I need the money. So how much money do I need? Okay, let's define it. And how fast can I get it? Correct. So then, once I have this money, which I know for my lifestyle that I require, if I can get it, in my case, in 3 years, great. Then I can do other things. That doesn't mean that I'm going to watch TV all day long. On the contrary, I've been traveling, I've been living so many experiences. I've taken risks, but different risks. And I've also pursued some projects. So for money or not, but it was not necessarily the prime motivator, okay? And that's that logic that people are not using, I think enough. But okay, that's it's for everybody to decide how they want to live their life,
Yeah. Well, I think that most of the people don't stop and think about these things, let alone the questions. They don't stop and think, because we are programmed, right? We all are programmed. Education, job, family, that's it. You go straight and that's it. Don't look aside. Don't get distracted. But the very interesting things in life happen exactly when you're becoming distracted and you learn something new and you ask a question in a different way, and then suddenly you say, "Oh, how did I not think about this?"
Yeah, some people would have a fantastic life with the traditional setup, and that's great. That's great. My thing is just do what makes you happy, or follow the path that has the most chances to make you happy. Correct? There are no guarantees in life, so I'm always talking about probabilities of success, or at least of reaching your goal. So you have to choose your path, and if you're not lucky, or not lucky, but if the probabilities are not there, then they're not there, And we have to keep a sense of perspective, correct? At the end, we tend to forget how bad it could be, or how worse it could be, but also how great it could be, correct? I feel that sometimes we're so engrossed in our own problem of the day that we lose the sense of perspective. We're always talking about risk, about living and everything, but what was the worst that could happen when I left corporate? Yeah. What was the worst, right? So yes, for a few years, maybe I would have had to lower my expenses and not be able to buy the latest iPhone and everything, but nobody in the West pretty much dies of hunger, correct? So my family always would have had enough to eat, maybe not always as much as you want and everything, but really, what is the worst? And then if it came to a point where it was unsustainable, I would have found a job, maybe not as good as the one I had, but I would not have died. And nobody in my family would have died. So, now you can say, "Oh, that level of stress is not is not acceptable," and that's for you to determine if you want to go through this to achieve a goal, which is an amazing goal, right? Which is to live your life the way you want. So, but keeping a sense of perspective and saying, "Yeah, okay, you don't have the last iPhone or whatever." And I understand that some people are living with less, correct? And I would say the less you have, the more you should do it, because you have less to lose. In fact, sometimes it's harder when you have a kind of a good situation, correct? And that's my message to the young people. When I see somebody young being afraid of risk, when really they have little responsibilities. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, they live at home, or they take an apartment which is smaller. I mean, we've always been, I don't know, when I was a student, I was living in really terrible conditions when I was, and okay, nothing, I didn't die. So why not risk? I mean, risk and discover the potential and the opportunities of making it. Because we always think that what happens if I fail? And the question, and we never really entertain what if I succeed?
Yeah.
And we don't know where it's going to come from very often. I mean, we have a plan and things come from somewhere else, correct? And all of a sudden, opportunities abound. And we never think about it. What if really I get a break? No, it's always, what if I don't get a break? What if I'm unlucky? So I think perspective is very important.
Absolutely. Let's talk about being a nomad. So this is again questioning a traditional way of life, right? You set roots, you buy a house, you're in a community, etc. So you rip this apart. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, again, I was attracted with my wife, because we always travel together, as by travel and living experiences and meeting new people. Obviously, when you do that, the community at home becomes more loose. Okay, so there's no perfect situation, correct? They always the yin and yang,
Yeah.
When you gain something, sometimes you may lose somewhere else. So you have to know what is more important to you. There is a saying that there are some people whose roots and some people whose wings. So obviously, I'm more of a person who's wing. Maybe because of my upbringing. We've traveled a lot. My dad was an expat, so we traveled. And my route was always where my parents lived, wherever it was not geographical. It was really where their house was, correct? So it was not geographical. It was so yeah. I mean, once you have the means to support this lifestyle, then you decide. And of course, we became a little bit extreme. There are the nomads who go to a place and they stay 6 months to a year in a place. With my wife, we were moving every almost like 2 to 4 weeks. We were changing locations, and my kids are also nomads now. So now it's always like, okay, where do we meet for Christmas? Okay, everybody has to come to that place, or for a birthday, and everybody has their own travel agenda, and that's what it is. And maybe it's a phase. Maybe after a while you say, you know what, I've traveled a lot. Now I want to settle down for. I don't know. I won't say 20 years, but at least a few months, and then so there are cycles. There is no black and white. Everything is on a spectrum, correct? And in this spectrum, you decide where you are. So, for example, the project that I'm going to be doing now on the spectrum of nomad life is extreme. But between staying at home and never traveling, and the extreme, there are plenty of ways of living a life, and so you choose the one that is good for you, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about travel, etc. Let's talk about your new project, when you're going to travel literally every day for a year.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I'm going to cross Europe, walking from Estonia to Spain. It's going to take me about 11 months. So my idea is to create a business from scratch without using my resources, correct? So that anybody could replicate. So I want to create a business from $0 to $100,000 in 1 year. I'm starting on May 1st. I'm leaving Tallinn and Estonia, and I hope to arrive in Tarifa in Spain by April 1st of next year.
Wow. That's very interesting. So, but how are you thinking to monetize this? Can you just explain a little bit?
So, this is basically a content-driven business. Basically, I'm going to generate content, talking about business, talking about this, and I will post regularly every day if I can. And when you do a content-driven business, you have to know which type of business that are different. I will be talking about these things because there are so many people trying to become influencers, and so you have to know what is the value you provide. Correct? In my case, it's educational value, maybe inspirational, so my goal is try to keep it open. So to reach a wide audience, because I'm open, and that people would send me donations, basically $5 for a coffee to help me. And so the whole premise is that if I provide value by my content, people will be willing to send me some coffee or whatever. That's the core of the business for that first year, correct? I'm also going to get some sponsors. I'm not really asking a lot. I'm asking $250 per month for the company. So I kept it very low also so that it's replicable. Correct? It's very important that what I do be replicable. And at the end of the year, I will hopefully publish a business blueprint that people should follow, if they want to start their own business. So between sponsorship, the donation, I will probably have created a class or a master class during the thing that I can sell, and then there are many other monetization models that can come in as the things, because in the next year, obviously, I'm not going to work, and the business has to be sustainable. So the second year, the business will be more sustainable through the selling of content, classes, and maybe having a community and things like that. And I will talk really in details about the breakdown, correct? So the P&L, and the expenses, so I encourage everybody to follow me, obviously, at the website, because that's where all the content will be. And I want to be as authentic as possible. When I fail, I fail because I'm doing it. I do everything by myself, correct? So there are skills where I'm very good, business, but there are skills like design, the website, the thing that I have to learn on the go.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is not to be perfect in every area, is to be good enough. Okay, good enough so for example, my videos, I know I'm not so great right now but I'm sure that by doing it every day for a year, I'll get better at it, correct? And or people will start enjoying my weirdness or whatever it is, correct? But that's the experiment, yes.
Interesting experiment. So what is the website that we can follow it on?
Yeah, so the website is called WTFT.life. And WTFT stands for walk the fucking talk, meaning that if you want something, just stop talking, do it. So it's not something that you would say to someone else, walk the fucking talk, it's yourself. It's really... basically, I like to say a kick in the ass to yourself. Say, stop talking. You really want something, go after it. A lot of people don't understand the relationship between the work and the money, correct, and the business, correct. It's about marketing, correct. Once you need to stand out. So a lot of people are trying to do business on social media, but the noise is such that to stand out, you have to do something very special. Okay, so So I'll talk a lot about marketing, and that's the essence of business, correct? You can brand yourself, you can have a great positioning, that's essential, but then you need to communicate it, and that costs a lot of money. So when you don't have it, there are ways to stand out that are not so expensive. Yeah, they require effort. Okay, that's appreciated, but you can really stand out, and that's actually where the work comes in. And working for a year is a long time, but creating a business of $100,000 in a year is a short time.
Yeah.
So again, perspective. What is it that you want? So, and I think this thing about the importance of positioning, marketing, and standing out is extremely important if you want to be successful and faster rather than later, basically.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that was a very important point for people who are trying to do business. Is you need to find a way to stand out.
Absolutely. Okay, that was so interesting, Franck. Thank you so much for being my guest. And we maybe speak in 1 year. See, we do the recap.
Actually, I invite you to come and work for a day. And we can do a podcast. I mean, if coverage is good, I intend to. I have some people coming and working with me, and we will talk about business. And the question for everybody is, if you had to do it all over again from scratch, how would you make $100,000 in a year?
Okay, that's a good question.
So come and meet me somewhere. I don't know, on the road. Yeah.
All right. No, that's a great idea. Actually, I'll think about it.
Yes, definitely.
But also, we have to plan for a recap, celebratory. Hopefully,
that's in a year.
Or if not, again, it's good because you can break down why something didn't work. That's also very helpful.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's an experiment. When you do an experiment, you learn even when you fail, right? So
actually, you learn more when you fail.
Yeah, well, right? I don't. Yeah, that's what they say.
But it's not nice.
I prefer not to learn that much.
But, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye.